Welcome to the Flex Your Rights podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanrahan. This is the podcast for informing employees of their rights in California. So if you want to know your rights so that you can flex them at work, this is your show. Let's get flexing. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Flex Your Rights podcast. I'm your host again, Corey Hanrahan, with my good friend and co-host, Travis Triggs.
How you doing?
And today we've got something special. So last time Travis and I got together, we talked a little bit about me. Super boring. I apologize. I apologize you had to sit through it, but something good came about that. So we found out and we talked about Team Hoyt San Diego, the nonprofit that I started, one of my passions away from the law, and that's running and helping individuals with disabilities. And so we thought, let's talk a little bit more about it. Let's dive into it, right? We couldn't fit it into the last podcast, but we had this great idea. Travis is in, I'm in. So we're going to take a little break from the legal talk and talk a little bit about this, this passion of mine outside of the workplace. And I think Travis got a smile on his face, man. He's got some questions ready for me. So, let's do it. Let's dive into it, Travis.
And I'm smiling because I participated in a run before with you guys. It was freezing cold in the morning, and that was a heck of an experience, man. And if you're in San Diego and you're gonna really want to get out of your comfort zone, hit up Team Hoyt and join a race. Join a race, and I'll leave it with that. But let's get back to Corey starting this in San Diego. So, what inspired you first to become part of Team Hoyt?
Okay. Well, I ran a little bit. I really wasn't a distance runner. I'd go and hit 2-3 miles on the treadmill, just to try to stay in shape, release some stress and anxiety. And a friend of mine, actually, a good friend, mentor, I interned with him in law school because he's been a lawyer for longer than I have. He had a friend who I'm also extremely good friends with now. We've actually tried a case together. He's a lawyer as well, but he had a friend who was the race director for the Hoyt Foundation Boston Marathon charity team. Nice. So if there's anything you know about the Boston Marathon, it is the race that you have to qualify to get into. So in order to be able to run the Boston Marathon, you have to have run another qualifying race below a certain time. And the time limit is crazy, right? I mean, the cutoffs are tough. So you get the best of the best runners, and then you get me through a charity team. So then you get the normal Joes through a charity team. So my buddy Doug was the I guess you could say the race director for their Boston Marathon team. He was the one that put it all together. And so my buddy was running the race and he had to raise money because it's a charity team. So I went to his fundraising event. It was a great event and they showed a video of the Hoyts, so you could see exactly what you're raising money for. And it's wildly popular YouTube video. You can find it. You can type in Team Hoyt. You can, and not YOU, but just the letter U and then CAN, and it'll pop up and it tells their story. And like everyone else in the room, I was in tears. I was in tears with the story of the Hoyts. And so, he ran it and he goes, next year, are you going to run it with us? And I was like, yeah, I'm in. After watching that video, I go, I'm in. So I got involved. So I got on the Boston Marathon charity team. 2011 was my first year. I had never run a full marathon before that. I ran a couple half marathons to sort of train for it. It did my training runs, but that was my first marathon. My first full marathon was the Boston Marathon in 2011 as part of the Hoyt Foundation charity team. And so being a part of that, I got to know Dick and Rick Hoyt really well. And we got, extremely close. They were like old friends, family friends. I mean, and so I went out, I ran it in 2011, 12, 13, 14. 2014 was my last Boston Marathon. Also the last time Dick and Rick ran it together because, Dick was getting up there in age. But I still went back out in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Wow.
To help to help put on the dinner, to help host the dinner, help with, all of the charity events for the charity team over the weekend. So that's how I got involved with the Hoyts and with the Hoyt Foundation, so that Team Hoyt San Diego out here was born.
Okay, and I was going to say that too. So when did the transition happen to where you were running there to you starting Team Hoyt in San Diego? Like how did that start, and how long has it been going?
So it was 2013. So
Okay.
2013 was the year of the Boston Marathon bombing,
Oh
right? That
wow.
everybody remembers. So I was running it in 2013. And the Hoyts. So let me tell you something about the Hoyts, right? Dick and Rick. So back when Dick started running with Rick, they were blazing fast. I mean, they were running fast. So this is kind of a side story, but let's get into it.
That's awesome.
So Dick was not a runner. So Dick is the dad, Rick was the son. Rick was born with cerebral palsy back in 1962, right? And he was born with cerebral palsy, and that was the time where the doctors told Dick and his wife Judy, look, just put him in a home.
Oh wow.
Put him in an institution. He's going to be nothing but a vegetable. Right. That was sort of the outlook they were given, which I bedside manner, right?
Yeah.
What a bedside manner from the doctor, but that's what you did back then. And, Dick used to say, him and Judy cried, they went home, they cried about it, and, they struggled with it, and they decided that they were going to raise Rick just like any other kid. They weren't going to do it. They weren't going to put him in an institution. They were going to bring him home and raise him like any child. And they did. And so they included him in all sorts of events. You can see in the video, there's, his brothers pushing him around in the street in his wheelchair playing, roller hockey, or, you know what I mean? Hockey in the street, and taking him backpacking. Dick would have him up on his shoulders, going on a hike up a hill or mountain. And so when Rick then was in junior high or high school, there was a kid who was paralyzed in a car accident. He was a lacrosse player. And the school was having a 5K road race running event to raise money for the kid. And Rick came home and he said, I want to do it. Can we do it, Dad? Can you push me? Like, I want to show to this guy that just because you're in a wheelchair, man, life isn't over. You know what I mean? There's a lot there. And so, and keep in mind, Rick couldn't talk. He was nonverbal. So he spoke through a communication device that was, that allowed him to speak, but that's what he typed out to his dad. He wanted to do it. And so Rick, Dick goes, oh, okay. They ran the race, and Dick used to famously say, we finished not last, but second to last. so they weren't last place. And then when they got home from that race, Rick had typed out on his computer, he said, when we're running, it feels like my disability disappears.
Oh wow.
And so,
That's
Dick would say
awesome.
that was a strong message for him. And so he said, then we're going to keep doing it. Then we're going to keep
Wow.
doing it. We're going to keep running. And so, so they tried to get into the Boston Marathon. And they would not let them run because there wasn't really a category for that. There wasn't a category for someone pushing another person in a wheelchair for an entire race. And so eventually Dick wore them down a little bit, and they said, okay, well, you can do it, but you still have to qualify. So there's the qualifying standards, and they're based on age, right? The older you get, the lower
Little time.
or the more time you have to run it to qualify, right? So they said you've got to qualify. And then they said, but you have to qualify at the younger age group. So even though Dick was older, I mean, I think, goodness, 50s at this time, probably. I mean, I lose track of time a little bit, but he was older. They had to qualify at Rick's age group. So it meant that if Dick was running himself, he would have more time to qualify. But since he was pushing another person in a wheelchair, he had to run faster than everyone else his age, which is wildly unfair. I
Yeah.
mean, how do you do that? And so, so I think the time he had to run was like 250, like a 250. full marathon, pushing a wheelchair. It
Oh
was
my
something like
gosh.
that. And so they went out to Marine Corps Marathon and ran a two. I don't remember the exact time, but it was about a 2:42
Oh wow.
for a full marathon. Now, Travis, you've run a half marathon, right? So
Yes.
you know what it's like running out there. So take a 2:42 for a full, cut that in half, just assuming you're running the first half the same as the second half, right? Which generally you're not, because the second half sucks, right? And you're just,
Yes.
if you're me, you're slowing down and you're just trying to make it to the finish line. So 2:42. So you're talking about a 1:21 half marathon?
Yeah.
A
That's
1:21
moving.
half marathon, back to back, back to back. But so they did it. So they had to let them in, and they were the crowd favorites. They ran ever since, from 1981, I think, was their first official Boston Marathon. And
Wow.
then they were official entrants until, 2014, when Dick and Rick ran their last one. I mean, the BAA, the race, put a statue of them up at the start line in
Dude,
Hopkinton,
that's awesome.
Massachusetts. Yeah. And so it's cool, right? It came from, no, you can't do it, to, them sort of becoming the iconic, team at the Boston Marathon.
Dude, that's
So they
awesome.
were, they were, they were blazing. So now let's fast forward again to 2013. I went off on a,
Oh, that's fine.
on a, on
That's
a tangent, but 2013, they got to start up at the front. Dick and Rick did, right? I mean, at like 9 o'clock. I'm starting like 11:30 back with the charity runners, right? Because I have no business being up there in the front. And so, but they were running slower times at that point. You know what I mean? Dick was significantly older. And so I was able to catch up to him. So I caught up to him. So I caught up to him on the
Sheesh.
course. And I think I was the first teammate to catch him. I mean, my goal was, I wanted to catch him that year, and I wanted to hang out with him on the course. So my goal was, this isn't even a marathon for me. This is just, I need to run as fast and as long as I can to
To
catch
catch
up to
him.
them.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. And then you know what I mean? And then I'll just kind of walk in with them and hang out with them if they'll let me, which, if you don't realize it, Dick's walking was like another person's jogging. So he was walking, pushing the chair, and I was still jogging to keep up. But I caught up to him, and I saw how cool it was. How cool it was that all of these, people that are running the Boston Marathon, this is like the marathon of marathons, really, right? I mean, if you are a runner, this is like the holy grail of marathons. And they're running, and they would stop. These runners would stop and say, "Can I get a picture?"
Oh wow.
And so I turned into photographer
Oh my
really quick.
gosh.
So they'd hand me their phone. I'd run ahead, turn around, and I'm taking pictures of these people with Dick and Rick on the course. And I'm like, this is the first time I really got to experience what this means to the running community out on the course, right? I had seen it at the Boston Marathon Expo, people stopping by the booth and going, "We love you guys, everything you do. We love seeing you every year." But it's the first time I saw it on the course, right? These like hardcore runners that are just in awe over them. And I go, "Man," I go, "Dick," I go, we gotta start a chapter in San Diego, man." I mean, at that point they had one chapter. It was Team Hoyt Virginia Beach. And other people
Okay.
had approached him about starting them, and he was just, he was cautious of his name.
I get
Him
it.
and Rick were like, "Can't just, let anyone do it." And I was overtaken by the emotion out there. And I go, "We got to start one of these." And he goes, "Yeah, sounds good." That thick Boston accent that he had, that, "Yeah, sounds good." And I was like, "Perfect, man." And then, and so then we're on the course, and undercover FBI cars are buzzing by us, and we have to get to the side, and you can see helicopters over, downtown Boston above Boylston Street. And we're like, "What's going on?" Talking to aid station people, and they're like, "There was an
Oh,
explosion at the finish line." And so it turned dark really fast. You know what I mean?
wow.
It was a sad day. And then it became just about us being able to get back to the hotel that we had, that was near the finish line, where,
Wow.
where the whole team was staying. So, that kind of got lost in all that. And, made our way back there, didn't finish the race. We got cut off with a mile to go, but,
Yeah.
nobody cared. Um, and then it was, I don't know, month and a half later, maybe, Dick's longtime girlfriend, Kathy, who I love, called me up and she goes, Dick said that you wanted to start a chapter out in San Diego and he's all for it. And I was like, no.
That's
And she
awesome.
goes, yeah, if you want to do it, he's on board. And I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. So I rounded up some of the other team members from San Diego. We had a handful of us and brought it up to them. And I go, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We're going to make Dick and Rick proud. We're going to start a chapter. And we did. And we've been thriving. So I was president until just a few years ago when things got too busy. And we had a real superstar who was helping out with everything. Tanya, you've met Tanya.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
And she was great. And I realized at that point in time, like, look, I got this thing off the ground. It's running. We exist. We're doing well, but we need that person who can take it to the next level. Yeah. You know what I mean? We need that person who's able to take what's been done and make it exponentially better. And so Tanya became president. I stepped aside, I'm still on the board. You know what I mean? I'm still highly involved. I mean, I feel like it's my baby a little bit, but she has taken it. And Travis, we've had races where we have 20 people with disabilities participating.
That is awesome.
So we've had some races where we have big numbers, and it means the world to everybody. I mean, I know, they're mostly kids with disabilities that we're pushing, and you saw us at the Leprechaun Run, right? The Leprechaun Run. It was the Leprechaun Run. Yep. Put on by my good friends. Yeah, Pete and Eric. San Diego Running Company, shout out. But it means a lot to them, but it means a lot to me too. I mean, I love being out there. I mean, I've done, goodness, I want to say maybe 30 to 40 of my half marathons, pushing a wheelchair. Couple full marathons.
How does a person I know I was my first time doing a marathon. How does a person prepare for a marathon, individually or even as a team, as a companion runner? How do you guys get it going?
Just training. I mean, I'm sort of a solo trainer. I train on my own. So back when I was preparing my fastest marathon pushing a wheelchair was back in 2018, Los Angeles Marathon. And I pushed a wheelchair. We had a great time out there, and it was 3:43 for the full marathon, which I was happy with. But it's still, Dick and Rick in their prime blew me out of the water. And Dick was older than I was at that time that I ran that 3:43. That's how incredible it is. But I run by myself. I mean, at that time my kids were younger. So I remember there was one training run that I did where I had the double jogging stroller. And so I had both kids in it, right? And I'm pushing it, we're flying around San Diego and I'm pushing it, but they get bored pretty fast. And so I remember my wife came to pick them up, but she brought water softener salt bags, 2 40-pound water softener salt bags. And so the kids got out, hopped in the car with her to go home, and I put 2 bags of water softener salt in the chair, and I was pushing it, and I put, there's a little umbrella thing, to keep the sun out of your kids' eyes. I put it down as far as it can go. So I'm like, people are going to be like, what's wrong with this guy pushing water softener salt bags around the streets of San Diego? So I put it down as far as it could go, and I pulled the bags up as far as it can go. So I didn't look crazy. But that's how I train. But, some of our athletes train as, in groups. They'll get together and, and they'll bring their running chairs out, and, they'll train as groups, sometimes running around Fiesta Island or whatever it might be. But, for me, it's, it's weight training, obviously, because you're not just running, you're, pushing sometimes 150, 200 pounds worth of, or even 250, I guess, pounds during the race. So strength training, and then, just getting the miles in the morning, man. Just getting those miles in and making sure the legs are ready when it's go time.
That's exactly one. And one thing I've realized from running, if you're going to do a marathon, make sure you run outside and not just on a treadmill, because there's a difference on the ground. I didn't notice that. I didn't realize that until I started running on our marathon. I traded literally only on the treadmill. And it's a big difference.
That Travis, that treadmill is forgiving. I mean, you can run on it and you can feel it go,
Yeah.
with every step a
Yeah.
little bit. In the cement,
Oh
nope,
no.
nope. There's no movement. But like with anything, man. I mean, training for a half marathon or marathon is just getting those miles in. You know what I mean? It's just getting your feet and your legs used to being out there and pounding that pavement for a couple hours.
And let me ask you, as we reach 20 minutes, these podcasts go so fast. But I do have to ask you, like, what's the goal? It's like, do you guys have like an end goal, or where you guys would like to be, like in the next 5-10 years for Team Hoyt?
Just keep raising money to buy the chairs. I mean, the chairs that we run in are expensive. They can be up to $10,000 a
Oh wow.
chair. So our goal is to be able to get more chairs, but also to be able to provide chairs to the families, right? So we try to gift one of those chairs every year at our fundraiser, so that it's look, I'm running the races, pushing some of these kids with disabilities, but to be able to let a family experience what Dick and Rick did together. You know what I mean? To have that bond where they have their own chair at their house where they can go out and they can run on the weekend and they can do races together. To allow them to have that, parent and child bond is important. So that's one of our goals too, is to be able to give back and to be able to provide these resources to people so that they can do it on their own, and
Okay.
not just through us. Um,
Okay. And how does people?
yeah.
How can someone reach out and find you guys online? How can someone find you?
Yeah, so you can find us online. Website's Team Hoyt SD, as in San Diego.com. I think if you type in teamhoytsandiego.com too, it'll get you there. I think we've got a redirect set up for that in case someone finds it. But you can contact us through there, find us on Facebook, send a message on Facebook. But we're pretty easy to find. We've tried to make it easy for people to get a hold of us. And we're always looking for people to get involved. I mean, it's a real, I mean, you saw it, Travis, it's a real feel good thing. Personally for me, my goal is to get another full marathon in. I haven't run a full marathon since 2018, man. It's been 5 years.
Yeah.
And so, I've got to get that training dialed up. I got to
Nope.
dial it up a little bit and get back out there. And I know you're going to get one at
I'm
some
gonna
point
get
too,
one.
the full
Yeah.
marathon.
I have to.
Yeah.
I have to. Is there any upcoming events that people can participate in for Team Hoyt?
Yeah, so we've got the Silver Strand half marathon coming up.
Okay.
I'm
When's
not
that?
going to be doing it the Silver Strand. I'd have to look up when it is. I
Okay.
think it's coming up in probably like a week or two. I
Okay.
think it's usually around like maybe November 17th ish.
Okay.
So that's coming up. We've got the Santa Run coming up in Pacific Beach, put on by
Oh
San
yeah.
Diego Running Company. That's a great one. That's in the beginning of December. Carlsbad half marathon in January, San Diego half marathon in March, rock and roll half marathon in June.
Okay.
We've got
How's the Santa Claus one? Is that one is it a half marathon? How long is that?
5K.
Oh yeah. Oh, we could do that, baby.
3.1 miles, Travis.
Oh, we could
That's
do that.
shaving 10 miles off your last run.
I know.
3.1. And it's fun. It's fun. I encourage you, if anybody out there is listening and wants to do a really fun race, you will. I don't know that you can go anywhere else in the world. Maybe, but it won't be as fun. And see thousands of
Santa
Santas
Claus.
running down the street. So everybody gets a Santa suit. It's a short sleeve, short Santa suit.
Wow.
Um, and so thousands of Santas running down Pacific Beach.
I think
It's
I'm.
it's a really fun, and our kids love it. Our kids absolutely love it. Because look, I'm a little serious when I'm out there running. You know what I mean? So I'm cranking along. But that race is actually really, really kind of feel good, fun race.
All
So
right.
check it out.
I
Yeah,
might.
check out
Yeah.
this. Yeah, Santa Run.
I think I'm gonna be in that one. I think I'm gonna participate for sure.
There you go. Let's do it.
Well, guys, thanks again. Like always, thanks again for tapping into the podcast. We're going to get back to the normal, talking about employment laws and employment. But for this one, we really wanted you guys to know what Corey's got going on. Be a part of the Team Hoyt race. If you guys never done it, I think it's one of the best experiences ever. If you see, I still have my plaque up. I'm so proud of this.
You got the medal, man.
If you've never ran a marathon, it will really make you feel proud because it takes a lot of hard work. And when you're done, it is the best feeling ever. So yeah, thank you guys for tapping in. Corey, please go ahead and close us out.
Hey man, I appreciate it. Thanks for listening about my little passion outside of, the legal community. Team Hoyt San Diego, we're out here doing good things, carrying on the legacy of Dick and Rick Hoyt. Check us out if you can. Come out to a race. If you see us at a race, come up and say hi. I mean, we always love talking to people. So I really appreciate you. Appreciate the support of the San Diego community. Travis, I appreciate your genius questions every time we get together, and we'll get back to the legal stuff on the next one. But I thought this was a break that we had to take to kind of tell the feel good story. So much appreciated. Stay tuned for future episodes, and we appreciate you listening. Take care. Thank you for listening to Flex Your Rights Podcast, the podcast to educate California employees so that they can flex their rights in the workplace. If you'd like to reach out to me to ask me any questions about today's episode or make a suggestion for a future episode, you can find me at attorneycorey.com. That's attorneycorey, COREY.com.